Yeah. Hey. 3-point firefighter, always ready for more. Saving citizens and leaving egos at the door. Another day up in the life, showing you what it takes. Got the hunger, pride, drive, spirit that never breaks. Yeah, always there when danger is threatening. When seconds count, guess what? We're counting the seconds. 3-point firefighter. 3-point firefighter. Hey, IAAF.
Right.
More so in the vein of intentionality. Is your intentionality lined up with the mission and like look sharp, be sharp, act smart? You'll just be sharp.
Right.
But yeah, you can also be too much. And I've been that guy before. I've been a little bit too much. But as I get a little more seasoned, a little more gray, I think I'm loosening up. But I don't get to judge that. You have to pull the audience, I think, on that one.
Well, let's get started with this. So I struggled with your biography.
Sorry about that.
Because
I copied it from my LinkedIn. That's my fault.
No. There's so much important good stuff there. So what I did is I cut it down. I'm getting ready to read it, but I'm encouraging everybody. I'm going to take it and put it in the description and read it because there really is a great story in your biography. There really is. But for right now, welcome to 3-Point Firefighter. My guest is Eric Merill, somebody I'm proud to call a friend, a colleague. Now, Eric grew up in Nebraska, and he has a passion for God, community, and service. And having met Eric several times, it's more than clear that that's true. Now, here's the only part I can't even wrap my head around. He could have played college football. I think that's the one with the net. I'm not a sports guy. But he decided
very low-level football.
Okay. But he said, no, I'm going to focus on my first degree. He got associates in fire protection technology. I'm skipping over some stuff. Read the description because it's really good. He ends up in Prescott Valley. When you read this in the description, you're going to say he meant to say Prescott Valley. Don't say Prescott Valley in Prescott Valley. That's bad. It's like saying Louisville and Louisville. It just doesn't work. He got a second degree, which is a bachelor's in fire administration. We're on the same side on that one. And he's 4 months away from getting his master's degree. He is currently a Battalion Chief of training. And I got to tell you, so I love telling this story about Eric. And I hope he believes me. I hope you believe me on this one, Eric, because it seems like it might be one of those smoke-blowing kind of stories. So COVID was happening, and we were going to do a 1403 class in Prescott Valley. And it was difficult because COVID was just hitting. I was the lead. It was the first time I've been teaching with one of my best friends, Gilbert Pedroza. So we go down here, and you all made a nice little classroom out in the bay. And I mean, really, legitimately a nice classroom out in the bay. We had to do, waivers every morning. We had to do temperatures and all this stuff. But I got to admit, and it's a fantastic training ground. Now, I've been there twice now teaching for different classes, and it's amazing. So we get there, and the person that was in charge at the time, who I'm sure is a lovely person, I don't know personally, and he had a lot going on, but me and Gilbert both felt like we were sort of bothering him. Like whenever we needed something for the class, it's a 3-day 1403 class, that we were a nuisance to the guy. We're like, man, he's so busy and hate to ask him. So quickly we learned about Eric Merill. Now, Eric had been working there, and I believe were you just a firefighter then?
No, I just became training captain. I just
captain
from the engine to training captain.
So Eric went out of his way to not only help me and Gilbert, but like I remember you coming up to us, like just passing us, like, what do you need? What can I get you? And Gilbert and I, when we would go have dinner at night, we're like, we might have forgot your name at the time, but we're like, that guy's fucking awesome, dude. He's like one of the best hosts there is. So the 3 days go by of training. We have a great class, fantastic training grounds. You absolutely made that class as good as it could be because you gave us everything we needed. You checked on us. I'll never forget that. Gilbert to this day says the same thing. Now, you weren't a member of ISFSI, or you weren't an instructor then. And so there's two people that have made my classes as good as they could be. You're the first one. The second one is Chief Eric Dryman from Indy. We did a basement fire class up there. So when you're now an instructor for the road to the modern fire instructor, the NFPA 1400 series. So we've worked together, officially worked together.
Yes.
And I had you and Eric Dryman both in the same room. And I meant it. I was like, these are two of the best of the best hosts that take an outside class and really add to its success. I've always said that. I've always told you that.
Yes.
Absolute truth, brother. You made you really did. You personally made an impact on me and Gilbert on how we can up our game. And that's not the only thing I'm going to brag on you too about. So get ready for that. If you hate being bragged on, you're going to hate the next one too.
So your Venmo, I got that set up. So
there you go. That's all I need.
Kind of like Jesse's posters. Like you mentioned it, he gets 17 cents hit on his Venmo.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you, brother. No, I appreciate it. I love you, man. Thank you so much.
Same here. Love you to death. You just meet people. Last week we had Tony on. Tony's one of those guys. Also at 1400. There's times that you meet people that you don't have to work with them for 20 years to feel like you've known them for 20 years. Tony's one of those. You're one of those. A bunch of those guys at 1400. But some of my favorite firefighters, some of my best friends are people that I've worked with in the fire service through ISFSI. So you're definitely in that group. So I was really glad to see you in class. I got to brag on you one more time. Another thing I learned from you. So for those listening, we kicked off our 1400 series class, which is a fantastic class. Check out ISFSI, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors, and you'll see some more information about this class. It's a one-day class. It's to help develop modern fire instructors using the 1400 series, like 1410. Actually, we go outside of 1400 a little bit. We talk about rehab and things like that. Fantastic class. But we had to bring everybody together up in northern Indiana at the MAC to kick this off. So there's 25, 30 of us. There's a ton of us.
25,
right?
Yeah, 25. And we were only missing one when we were there.
Yes, somebody got sick, I believe, is what it was. So we all had really nice, the ISFSI gave us some really nice gear to wear, really super nice T-shirts, really super nice polos. So the idea is we go there as a group, and for a couple of days, we do some adult education together. We work on the class together. We get on the same page. And then the last day is a class. Did we do 2 classes or 1 class?
No, well, we did 2 run-throughs. Each group had had 2 different run-throughs, because I remember we did our run-through the first time, and then Jesse was like, "Hey, I got an idea." Of course, all his ideas are amazing. Changed it up, did it a second time,
Right.
And that's what we're rolling with. But yeah, it was so that way we could do it once and then watch 1 or 2 other ones that day.
So I guess it was the last day we're doing the class for the students that come in, and I love stealing good instructor stuff. I've talked about it on here a bunch. If I see something really good, I steal it. I do not give them credit. So I'm going to delete this part about you having done this, and I'll change it around to where obviously it's just me.
Perfect.
So anyway, I bring up that nice gear we wore because on the first class, there were so many of us instructors, which there's not going to be that many for the rest classes. When lunch rolled around, there's half the room was ISFSI instructors on the far side. They're all wearing their black. It's them. And then on the other side are the students that are wearing a little bit of everything. And I'll never forget, I was stole somebody's lunch. I forget who, I think it was Seth. So sorry, Seth. I grabbed his lunch. But anyway, as I'm walking to go towards that side of the room with all my friends and instructors, you're kind of a little bit in front of me, and you stop and you ask a guy, just a random person you didn't know, "Hey man, can I sit here and eat lunch with you?" And I kind of saw that at the corner of my eye. He said, "Yeah, sure." And you sat down, making a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked over at that wall of black over there of everybody wearing the same black shirt. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that you took that extra second. As a new instructor, you could have gone over there and hung out with all the old heads, hang out with Forrest Reeder and pick his brain, right? I talked to Gilbert, talked to Seth, talked to these great instructors. But you wanted to connect to a student. and it broke my neck. I looked at you and I'm like, I stole it that second. I went and sat down with another guy. I said, I did the same thing you did. And whenever I'm in that situation again, I'm always going to do that. I thought that was such a great opportunity to connect with a student. So you can Venmo me some more money there.
I already did.
Good deal.
The whole time I would just send. My wife's going to be so mad.
Well, you're not sending a lot of money, so I will say this is negative about you. You're kind of a cheap ass. I mean, that's a pretty good compliment.
I totally am. All my clothes are from Costco. I got my dog on the way out. That's my life.
So I want to talk to you about quite a few things. And I know we don't have a ton of time, but one of the things I would like to talk to you about is something that you brought up at the last second before we hit record. And it was just such a simple word that you said. And it was identity. We were talking about the fire service, how sometimes the fire service, it ebbs and flows, it changes. I'm not against change at all. Even if it works against me, I'm still not really against the change because it's a living, breathing, it's dynamic, right? Yeah. But when you brought up identity, I was like, holy cow, it never hit me like that about how people identify their entire existence, basically, with the fire service. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. So, and it's a double-edged sword because this is the best job in the world. And there's never been a day. I mean, trust me, there's been days where I've struggled, I think, with an expectation of something that was going to happen that day. I had a little bit of anxiety about, but I don't remember a day that I ever didn't kick the ceiling when my alarm clock went off. So with that being said, this is the best job in the world because you don't know what's going to happen that day. You don't know who you get to help. But at the end of the day, the flip side of that is we have a lot of good men and women in the fire service that their identity is probably too wrapped up in being a firefighter. And I think it's great to wear your passion on your sleeve. I think it's great. Speaking of sleeves, there's not a lot of other professions that people get tattooed on their arms or back or neck or whatever. Yeah, exactly. I got my I'm getting some work done. It's getting a little healed, but yeah, we all have these tattoos of the fire service, and I've never seen a plumber have a crescent wrench or a plunger tattooed on them. If they did, that you might start getting some comments or some pictures emailed to you. Now I might have invited that, but
God, I want to see.
Not realistic. You know, we're very prideful of our profession, but it shouldn't be our identity. Mm-hmm. My identity, and you can see, I got pictures of my family here. I'm a husband first. I'm a father. Again, I mentioned even in my bio, like I'm a follower of God and a believer in Christ before I'm anything else. That's my identity, but that's also kind of my soil and why I want to do why I want to do this job so well. Why I love people. Why I love to connect with people, and that's I think what makes me successful in the profession. I've still made plenty of mistakes, and I think when your identity becomes wrapped up in what you do, you then become on this pedestal that you're obviously going to fail. Therefore, you're going to fall. It sets you up almost for this failure. But, you mentioned change. Change is good, in my book anyway. Change is good. I think change is more associated with culture. I think a lot of times we misconstrue the definition of culture with tradition. I think tradition is beautiful. I was told the first time I ever went to the National Fire Academy by a really, really, really respected man there that tradition is solely ashes left behind from old fires. Like, what a great thing to remember and honor the history of the fire service by these old fires and learn from, be better than. But I just heard this on a fire engineering podcast the other day. Somebody was mentioning, you should always want that last fire back. Only in the vein of like, there's things I can always do better. Like nobody's going to bat 1,000 in a structure fire. Yeah. So kind of the same ideology with tradition, like, hey, I'm going to lean into traditions that we now know where we're going or where we want to be because of tradition. We want to hold true to some of those things. Leather buckets, push-in ceremonies, how you transfer the water to a new engine from an old engine, things like that. Those are awesome. But culture is evolving. It's always changing. Unfortunately, sometimes when there's change, we associate change with loss, though. And then that loss chips away at identity. So I guess I'll end with this because I don't want to go on a huge soapbox on this, but we just had, I shared with you earlier, we just had a recruit graduation Thursday night. We graduated 20 amazing men and women. And it's a joint academy between Central Arizona Fire, who I work for, and Prescott Fire. who's our neighboring auto aid agency. Everything operationally, we're the exact same, well, almost the exact same. So in the graduation ceremony at the very end, my buddy Russ, he came up with this idea a few academies back of, hey, why don't we do some sort of a like, we'll call dispatch and we'll have them do an all call, so it opens up all the tones at all the stations, and dispatch just comes on, just says, hey, congratulations, recruit class 24-2, welcome to the fire service, best of luck, end of call. Engines can or stations can call in and just say, hey, thank you, welcome to the fire service, good luck, whatever. And I kind of transfer that of and I usually get very emotional when I kind of talk about this with recruits, especially as I get older in the fire service and I see good people in their lives shift. But I always say your success at the end of your career is only as conducive as who's standing next to you. When you get that flag at the end of your fire service, we do these ceremonies, these really cool traditional ceremonies of on your last, like you did a 24-hour shift, you get off that morning at 0800 at shift change, you are no longer a part of the organization, at least as far as the roster goes. You will always be a part of it, but just as far as you won't be in the staffing plan. So we do a big flag lowering, pipers and honor guard are there, your family, friends, everybody's there to celebrate you. It's a beautiful moment. You get handed your flag and you take that with you on your way out. And I always use that comparison of who's there the night of the recruit academy, your family that's there with you, whoever pinned the badge on you. The success of your career should be conducive to who's standing with you at the end of it.
Right.
Because I think we put so much identity on us as the firefighters throughout our careers, and we forget that there's a whole support system around us, and we have to lean into that. And that takes vulnerability. That takes honesty. And I think that the fire service is the best that it's ever been in terms of creating resources. And I'd hold myself as a chief accountable of, are we providing the best resources? Are we facilitating the needs of our members and their families that they can get to retirement and then through retirement? You know what I mean?
You're one of the few people, I'm not saying there's not others that believe this, but on my podcast that have said what you just said. You said firefighters and their families. You don't hear that enough. And one of the things, having Jacob Johnson down in Pearland, Texas, outside of Houston, he writes letters to the family members of whoever works underneath of him, and I've always thought that was amazing. And I still think it is amazing. But people in the fire service talking about culture, you always hear that you have two families. You have two families. You got your family at home and you got your brothers and sisters at the firehouse. I've come to believe in the past year or two that we need to do everything in our power to make it one family. I mean, when you talk about your family, like, I'll tell you something. I used to work for Lexington, Kentucky, and every Christmas at the training center, they would have Santa Claus and free gifts for your kids. They had the chiefs serving food. They had games. So it was a gigantic thing for them to, you're around the fire trucks and it's a Christmas party. It's wonderful. And they early on figured out that it's not a two-family situation. It's like, we are a family, right? And when you're with your family, we're going to do everything to make sure that you spend as much time for the rest of your life with your family, taking care of your health, fitness, whatever. But when you're with us, they count too. They can come over and visit you at the firehouse. So we have these parties, we have these, picnics, we do these things for them. And I just think it's amazing. And I like that you said that. Whenever you talk about change or culture, to me, when you said identity, I always think of ego, like it's dangerously close to ego's kind of in between identity and I think pride. It's right, and either way, man, one misstep, and you're kind of screwed. But I'm not saying all ego is bad, but I do believe when we talk about some of the worst traditions or the worst cultures, some of the worst things that are done in the fire service under the firehouse roof is usually an ego-driven thing. An example, which I'd love your feedback on this. I love asking this question. How do you treat your new recruits in the academy? Do you scream and yell at them? Do you treat them militaristically, or do you treat them as the brothers and sisters that join the fire service trying to get a job and help the community?
Yeah. And I think there's got to be a really healthy balance in that, because you can potentially ruin really good people if your approach isn't, and again, I'll use the word intentionality. I want to be very cautious. Like, I know there's buzzwords out there. They're only buzzwords if you don't believe what they actually mean. And then you have to practice that, right? So your words and actions have to match up. In our academies, I really want to foster an environment where, yes, like they're brand new. They haven't even earned the right to pay the rent. But I always use this mantra to where, I'm almost get poked fun of, which is good. Because I almost overuse it, but I'm always like, hey man, you got to pay the rent, and when you show up in the morning, like that's your first payment. Like, how are you? What's your mindset? How are you acting when you get in here? Are you humble to be here? Are you excited to be here? And make sure you channel that passion and be enthusiastic every day at the academy. And then on the back end, us instructors, we will match that. We will match your enthusiasm. And we have to keep those healthy boundaries of, one, we're not going to yell at anybody. If you're yelling at people in your academy, I don't think you're in tune with this generation and how they're learning. Right. And so Bill Gustin, actually, well, we were emailing over Thanksgiving, I think. I just sent him a quick, hey, happy Thanksgiving, grateful for you, man. I hope you're doing good. And he sent me, and I just let him know. Hey,
that's a nice little name drop right there.
That's what I'm here for. If I can just throw out some names, because I just Bill's new to the fire service, and I feel like people need to know who he is. And really,
So, he didn't get instructor of the year this past year at FDIC. And, that stuff.
Yeah, and then he even came in and won an award with ISFSI, and it's cool. I hate to break off of this, but Bill Gustin, watching him walk through the halls of FDIC, as humble as it gets.
Yeah.
And people walking up, and people afraid to walk up to him. And it's like, this is the nicest guy in the world. I literally met him by just walking up to him saying, congratulations. Yeah. And then he was like, looked at my name tag, where I was from, and they just turned into a thing. Like, he genuinely cared who I was. Like, that's rare. Another reason why I like Jake Barnes so much, like, you got a guy that is a wealth of knowledge. People know who you are. It's usually sometimes law enforcement and security walking through the halls. They're, like, oh, there he is. You dip out. No, but you're humble enough that you can share confidence and competence, and it comes through in a very natural, organic way, right? So the reason I mentioned Bill, though, is because here's a guy who's been there, done that. And he's like, yeah, you know what? We're in this academy too. And he goes, I don't believe. He actually said it like the next day on a podcast on the Hump Day Hangout. He was like, I got to say this. I don't believe in some of the false characteristics or identities that these new recruits have. Some people say they lack the character, the hard work, the ethic, anything, whatever. He's like, I don't believe that. And he gave this really beautiful speech. I'll direct your listeners to that podcast, I guess, to hear what he has to say. I don't want to paraphrase for him, but when you have guys as seasoned as Bill Gustin, that they're saying, hey, people need to watch what their assumptions are in these recruits, it says something. And we really do. You still have to treat them just like another adult in another academy. Like, we're going to be stern with our actions and orders, but we're going to be loving and compassionate how we teach the why. And how we treat them, because they have earned the right to be there. They've earned the right to at least wear the red shirt. They haven't earned it to earn the blue shirt.
Right.
That's if they're not fostered in an environment that they're empowered to make mistakes. Because I always tell them too, another thing that gets overused probably, that failure is growth. The more you trip, stumble, and fall, the more you're going to learn that. Take notes, write it down, don't do it again, and let's get better. But you don't do that by yelling and having punitive measures. You do it by teaching and coaching. That's our job. That's our job as a teacher coach. And that's that difference, though, is if you're yelling and it's going to be a paramilitaristic academy in the sense that there is hierarchy, there's a chain of command, and we're going to follow orders. But those orders there, and they need to understand that those orders there are to protect them and ultimately protect life and property. So again, it's just a healthy balance.
So for me, having served in the military, I'm not advocating for, new guys calling the chief, hey, Eric, let me ask you something like that. I feel like there's a hierarchy. There's an organizational path they need to understand. They need to understand the chain of command very well, simply because when our shit goes down and we're on a fireground scene, that's not really the time to question whether or not you need a pick head or a flat head based on your training. If the captain tells you to get something, you get it, right?
Right.
But I grew up in the time of shut up, don't talk, basically, I had this guy's actually a mentor, and I haven't talked to him in a million years, but he was my first captain in Lexington, Kentucky. And he would talk to me every now and then. But his thing was he collected old photographs of, I want to say it was fire trucks, like from all over the country for the internet. And he said something through another person to me, like he's like, we were called subs. And he said, tell the sub that if he gets a year on, if he makes it a year on, I'll show him my pictures. And I'm standing right there. And so there was this delineation of, you're nothing right now, and in fires, he would show me stuff. I mean, he really would. He would take advantage of every opportunity. Love the guy. I don't know that I agree with how that happened, but I will say this. When I got you lose your orange helmet and you get your, is it yellow helmet? I got it back there. My yellow helmet. That was my first helmet. No, it's that red helmet right there, that Lexington helmet. Once I got that, he took me upstairs in the conference room after dinner and laid out all these pictures of trucks. And he talked to me normal, just like you and I are talking. Yeah. But for that first year, even though he didn't yell at me, he didn't connect with me. And I feel like, I think that's a problem in the fire service is with new people. You feel like they don't have the experience, so they can't possibly have an idea or a voice. And if you tell your people to shut up, how do you know what they know? Right? I saw this one was tough to watch, but I've never seen it. As part of the graduation part of for the state of Indiana is you have to wedge sprinklers while they're going. So what we would do to initiate people is at first we would pump it a little too high. So it'd be really hard to do. And then we cater down and then they would do it. And we have a big joke. This guy was trying everything he could to stop that water. There was no way he was going to stop. None. He got a Kroger bag, those plastic bags. And I remember there was no chance of it working. And everybody, like we're outside the window watching them all get soaked and wet. And I remember thinking, that's brilliant. There's no way it's going to work. But he's thinking outside the box. He's like, and he wasn't afraid to try it in front of a bunch of people. Of course, the second it went up, it blew away. But I remember thinking that person right there is a thinker. And everybody else is kind of making fun of him stuff. I'm like, I don't remember what I said to him afterwards exactly, but it was something positive. I do remember that. But yeah, we gotta understand that these new recruits, I always say this, and I always forget to give the right people the credit, but the bravest thing any of us do is sign on to become a firefighter. Everything after that is doing our job, right? Absolutely. Greatest job in the world. And they want to do what we do. How can we treat them like garbage? How can we exile them to, you're cleaning the shitters and you do this, you get the grunt work, I see value in learning from the ground up, but I also see problems with, like for me, that's all I did for the first year was clean bathrooms, just clean bathrooms. That's fine. But then take me out and show me the lab, let's do other things. So that's been my experience. Listen, this is, I'm going to wrap us up for week 1, right? Because I've been talking way too much, but to be fair, I love the way I sound. I look good. I sound good. And I ain't lying.
You got the voice of it.
What's that?
You got the voice of our generation.
I'm only 22. See, this is just, I don't take care of myself. I should take vitamins. I really should take vitamins. But I appreciate you being on. Next Monday, check back. We're going to have Chief Eric Merill back to finish the conversation. Brother, thanks for being on.
Thank you. Love you, man.
Love you too, buddy. And we're back. So last week, you were wearing the same thing, I believe, right?
It's holidays. Try to keep it festive, green or red, for the month.
Oh, we could do the lie like that. Like, did you have a good Christmas?
Oh gosh, my Christmas was great.
Watching
football. Don't ask me about the scores. But yeah, it was a great one. Had a Sam Adams and sat by the fire pit and watched the kids open presents. It was a beautiful day.
Awesome. I hunted and killed a person. I've always wanted to do that. That was cool. Didn't really work out. He ended up beating me up. So, But maybe next Christmas it'll work out for me. I appreciate my wife giving me that gift coupon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as long as it wasn't your wife you were trying to kill. I mean, as long as it's a strong or somebody,
It's just like, it's straight out of Shakespeare. My wife's this tall, right?
Okay.
Shakespeare said, though she's small, she be mighty. Yeah, that's definitely my wife. Okay, so maybe we're lying. Maybe it's not Christmas yet. Maybe, just maybe, we just started this like 30 minutes ago. But we've been having some great conversations about how we treat new people. But I've got some other things I want to talk about with you. And you're the second person to bring this up. And my first question to you is, though, before we get into it, is what is your definition of data when it comes to the fire service? Before we go into it.
Data is our key to progression in the fire service. It's readily available, but it's constantly being collected. I love the fact that, data, if you want to know, what is data, just open up FSRI.org. There's your data, because data is only just numbers or facts until you start to apply it.
Right.
But data has to be empirical. By empirical, I mean, it's got to be fact checked, peer reviewed, whatever it is, it's either tangible or I can check it and make sure that that's real, right?
Right.
But I always point a lot of our organization, our if we're going to change an SOG or we're going to look at tactic strategies, well, let's go back to FSRI.org and make sure that at least we have a solid foundation. So make sure you got solid soil, and then you start growing from that. And then whatever you harvest, it's going to at least be something from the UL NIST studies. And that's why I love what we're doing with ISFSI. What you guys did with NFPA 1700, my goodness, I wish more than anything, I would have known, if I could be involved in this 1400 like I am now, if I could have been involved in that 1700, because right. I think what we're going to put out in 1400, again, it's going to be empirical. But I feel like I know so much more now about all that from learning from all of the instructors and just the deep dive in the content that they had to provide. I feel so much smarter. But if I could have done that with the 1700, I feel like, gosh, what a wealth of knowledge and experience I could have got from that room in those, endeavors as well. So I really think that if you're going to push forward in conversations at the kitchen table, which I always promote, I think the BC's got to sit down with the crews, and the captain's got to talk with the guys out on the training grounds and talk about the how and why of getting stuff done, and that data being collected from UL NIST studies, disseminated through FSRI, so somebody small brain like me, I can figure it out, and then you got to go start applying it, and that's, to me, moving forward. That's that progression I'm referring to in the fire service.
The reason I bring it up, there's two words that I think that are overused in the fire service, or used incorrectly. And I do it too. So I'm just saying, sometimes I catch myself doing it. I know you're thinking, oh, you're seeing perfect in every aspect, perfect way. Yes, I can see why you would think that, but I'm a complete mess. I'm a mess. Any success I've had, anything nice people say about me, about fire service or instructing, it's only because I got to work with people like you and Gilbert and Jesse and Forbes, and I get to learn from these people. So, but here's the two things: data and research, I think, are used incorrectly quite often, and I think they can be misdirecting. For example, how many times have you heard somebody say, oh, I'll research that on Google? Well, whether it's fire service or not, right? I wonder what the second most American-made car is. No, let me research on Google. You're not researching it, okay? It's kind of an insult to people that go to school for a billion years and know how to research. That one right there, that one doesn't bug me in the fire service near as much, but when it's used that way, it does kind of irk me. Yeah. But when I hear data thrown around, the word data, that's the one that worries me, because like you, I love FSRI, UL NIST. They have literally, and I've said this a lot, changed the entire landscape of the fire service. They have saved so many lives. There's no way to even speculate how many lives Dan Madrikowski, Steve Kerber, all those people, right? They have saved lives because of the knowledge that's out there. So now let's go over to Firefighter Rescue, that by Brian Brush, right? Love it. Can't get enough of it. Great. My only irk is when people refer to that as data. Like the data is showing from this that we should be doing that. It's amazing. I hope it keeps going on a million years. I love it. And again, if you're listening to this, I'm not I'm not dissing it at all. But the fact remains, it's only information based on what people send in, their memory of a situation. Not everybody sends in stuff. I know that for a fact. That I know people that I've tried to have send in stuff, and they refuse to do it. So it's only based on the people that are willing to play, and it's based on their perspective and their opinion of things. Now, again, I feel like it's coming across like I don't like it. I do like it. It's still like even called data. It's information. It's great information, and it's formative information. It does change what we do. But when you got FSRI burning down Governor's Island, or what they did over in Cobb County, Georgia, what they're doing right now, they are using scientific instruments. They're using engineers, they're using scientists, use firefighters. They're using these people to have that empirical data. It's repeatable. It's not like they burn down one house and go, well, I guess that's how it is. No, they do it in the lab. They do it in the building, that big hangar, I guess. They'll build the houses, and then they'll go out and acquire structures, and it almost always is right on point. So that's why I brought that up. I think data is important. And what gets me is I can't stand, I'm doing a lot of talking. You should interrupt me more. That's your problem. You should interrupt me more. You didn't Venmo enough. I don't know.
No, I'm out of money at this point, but I need to have much to begin with.
Cannot stand people that refuse to believe it or look into it. I had an idiot of a chief, one of the 3 idiots that I work for, that said, and I quote, when this subject came up, all you need is balls. Well, we talk about flow path and high pressure. You just need balls to get in there and get it. Really? Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, a fire academy would be, an hour long? And then you put people on trucks. Is that how?
Yeah, boy, you better have some good lawyers on retainer if that's how you're operating your organization. That's where I think there's a, and kind of like your question with the recruits, like how are we talking to our recruits? It's the same. We got to be consistent, not only with our delivery, but also with the message that's getting conveyed, right? And I don't care if it's recruits all the way up to a 20-year captain. I'm going to be consistent with my information sharing. I want you to be a thinking firefighter, whether you're in a red shirt in the academy or you're a 20-year captain. And at the end of the day, the message doesn't change. My delivery could change a little bit, but I want to be consistent. And that's how you earn trust and respect, especially like I represent a division. I try not to create like, hey, this is Eric Merrill's training division, or this is Eric Merrill's. I mean, as you see, I don't even really have an office. I have one corner in a giant office because I want, and I didn't design it this way, but I like that it's this way because it fosters conversation in the room. I want there to always be not necessarily open door, but I always want there to be like a streamlined means of communication, right? So I think when it comes to data, right, that's empirical based. The rest, I think there's also a negative connotation on things being anecdotal. You think you feel you have a bias that's created from some history, some sort of, you read this, you've seen this, whatever, that's still relevant. And we still need to share that. But in order to be a thinking firefighter, though, you need to create these slideshows in your mind, right?
Yes.
And so I always explain this to the recruits. You get out of the truck, you look both ways, right? Then you get out and we take a snapshot of the fire, okay? And then you turn around, you see your Minuteman. So you grab your hose, throw it on your shoulder, look back, take another snapshot. Then you come back, you grab your other 100 foot, you pull that, take another snapshot. As you're walking through, take another snapshot. At the end of it, from truck to or rig to door, truck to door, you have 200 feet of hose laid out, flaked out in a methodical manner, so you know how you're going to move that hose. But you also have 20 different snapshots. You have your own PowerPoint in your mind that you're not playing to go, in that 1 or 2 minute section, how has the fire developed? Has the smoke changed or transitioned? Did it go from laminar to turbulent? Did the smoke darken? It's consuming more oxygen. Where is the darker smoke? How deep seated is this? These are those things we want our people to be thinking before they even enter the front door. But they have to have that slideshow. And then at the end of the day, you have your AAR. You either do it at the tailboard. We should do both. You should do a tailboard with everybody and then do a formal one later. But you're sharing. That's the whole point of an AAR, in my opinion, or a PIA, wherever part of the country you're in. that whole methodology is to share slideshows with each other. Yes, celebrate your successes, hone in on your failures, only in the sense of we have to find the training gap, and the training division now is accountable to help us, facilitate whatever needs to move forward. But at the end of the day, we're sharing slideshows of this guy saw this and this girl saw that, and sharing that so we can all now see all four sides of the structure. So you understand the why. Why did we do this? Why did we do that? Why did you transition to this? So anyway, that to me,
I love that.
Cool. Thank you.
I love that.
When you give me a compliment, I'll stop talking and we'll rock with it.
So here's when you were telling me this, and you said, you take it, you get off, look both ways. I mean, this is literally, you said, look both ways, take a snapshot, look at your Minuteman, pull it, take another snapshot, get your other 100 foot, take another snapshot. Here's where I failed as a firefighter, is my tunnel vision, right? I'd give anything if somebody had explained to me back, and it's not anybody's fault but mine. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I would love to have heard that 30 years ago, because I think where I failed was, it was always, that house is on fire, I'm going to stretch this hose to that door, and that's all I worried about. I didn't worry about, the smoke, the fire, nothing. I was just tunnel vision. And then once that door was open, it was just as hard as I could to go inside. And I hate to admit that, it was the way I was. Now, unfortunately, when I became the training officer and I started going to fires, one of the neatest things about going to these fires and really doing nothing as a training officer, right? You're just kind of watching, was seeing that big picture, watching that smoke changing. And then I would be like, hey, to whoever the major is, I'm like, look, the smoke's changing, out there. And, all right, this is a balloon frame construction. I wouldn't bust out that PPV yet. Being able to see that big picture, I'd give anything to have done that. So with the way you're talking, it's like you're forcing that. A couple things. I love how you say making your own PowerPoint. Love it. And you're forcing these people into to make those snapshots, meaning, more importantly, taking time and observing the situation. I love it. I think that no better way to bring somebody in the fire service than that exact way. Love it.
Yeah, I think for and I don't care what rank you're in, whoever's going into that flow path, and I can give an example from every rank on the fire ground of why being a thinking firefighter, has its place and how you can apply that. But just as a firefighter, anybody who's going to enter the flow path, whether it's recruit academy, quarterly trainings, whatever it is, I would love if I could walk away from the fire service and have just left a small fingerprint in my organization, at least, for people to understand how little time they have they're just working in the flow path, from the front door to the seat of the fire. Now, we're big on transitional attacks, and I know that almost comes with a negative connotation, but I just need people to understand that a transitional attack is still offensive. You have your offensive and defensive strategies, and I also think we get confused with tactics and strategies. Those are two separate things.
Right.
But from a strategic side, you're still offensive until it's deemed defensive. Everything you do, there's an implied value that you're offensive until it's over the radio commanded that now we're in defensive mode. But if it's a transitional attack, an outside in, exterior in, whatever you want to call it, our big, or at least my big push is that your best tactic is water on the fire. Makes everything better, right? So Absolutely. If you have a visible flame, we want our firefighters to understand that you may not go to the front door. You may go to the big picture window in the alpha delta corner of the structure. You may go to whatever. One, I want them to understand path of least resistance. That's how the fire's going to react. So match it. You go the path of least resistance to get to the seat of the fire. Until you hit the seat, you will always have a problem. So as the thinking firefighter, you shouldn't have to be told, hey, pull a line, go to the front door. It may be, hey, pull a line, you're going to figure out what you're going to need to do, because now the company officer is building his own PowerPoint, because he's given a size up. He gets out, he does a 360, does a follow-up over the radio. Everybody should be listening, but water should be getting put on the fire one way or the other, without the officer having to say where to put the water. Otherwise, we failed. And then on the back end, from a command side, I know that first in company officer is going to be IC until the VC or somebody higher, equal or higher, is going to get on scene and officially take command. Everything stays on this command channel so everybody can hear what's happening until the VC gets there, can switch people to attack because, one, I think words matter. So using less makes the ones you use more powerful. But it really needs to be setting up the picture of, hey, this is what I see. So now everybody has an idea of what I should be doing. So you got to be flexible. One, we have to give the autonomy to the company officers to pick the tactics that work best at the time of what they're seeing. Okay. So firefighter has to know where to put water on the fire. Visible flame, water on the fire. If it's vent limited, door shut, I got smoke, no visible flame, we're going to whichever door is closest to make action. We're not going to walk around the whole structure and go to the back side. If I got to go through a fence and a gate and a Doberman to get to the seat,
yeah,
get your butt in there. On the flip side, though, and this maybe I'm going a little down a rabbit hole, but I mentioned we're on a command channel, or if you got to switch to attack, whatever it is. One thing that I'm learning that I'm not great at and I need to do better at is radio discipline. Mm-hmm. And the handful of fires I've IC'd, I'm very intentional about this in training that when crews are in the flow path, it's got to be literal radio silence, and make sure that channel is clear for those crews working in there. And I'm emphasizing what I started by saying is that the most important thing I could leave is for people to understand how little time you have in the flow path from the front door to the seat of the fire to make any positive effect on reducing fire phenomena. And again, we know the suppression supports the search. We've got to get crews in there to perform that search with suppression as its support. And you got to have radio silence to do that, but you have to have that intentionality that everybody understands what's happening by what they see. So transition all the way back to the recruit academy. I don't have time to sit and yell and berate a recruit because we've got information to share. Right. And that information has to be, why does it make so much sense that you're flowing water? Like, what are the signs and symptoms of flowing water as you go, as opposed to just haul butt and get to the seat of the fire? There's too much information and teaching to be done before they see it. So then that wisdom can come in with the difference of you're getting taught something, you're learning it, but now you need to experience to live it. And then now that's you embed that wisdom, but that's got to be shared at that AAR though too.
I love it. So you're teaching them right out of the gate, FSRI, the data-driven tactics and strategies. All right, we're gonna go backwards a little bit here. You said a lot of people don't know the difference between tactics and strategies. I agree. So a strategy would be, say, to vertically vent, or to vent a house, right? A tactic would be specific ways to do it. Yeah. Right? Do you have any other examples you may want to throw in there to make sure people understand? Because you're right. A lot of people don't understand the difference between a strategy and a tactic.
Yeah, really just break it down of a strategy is what's your goal, what's your objective, and then your tactic is the means by accomplishing that.
There you go.
From task to task and person to person, but that's where the FSRI or the UL NIST studies disseminated by FSRI, that's where that comes into place, because now you have a little bit of boundaries, I guess, which is good, which is healthy. Right. So boundaries are good, but you still want the autonomy of the company officer that's seeing, smelling, feeling, whatever it is at the time to make those adjustments. Kind of like your quarterback. I trust Tom Brady to audible at the side at the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean?
I know nothing about football, but I'm gonna go like this. Oh yeah, oh yeah, hell yeah. The Braid Man, Brady, Tom Brady.
Football is like the Jake Barnes of fire service.
He's that bad, and he plays football. Nah, okay. I think we need to be on the same page as the way we talk, right? I believe we need to have the same, so when you talk about strategy and tactics, that's why I think it's important. You talk about transition, and this is the fight I love to have. And having this platform, I get away with a little bit of murder on this one, but like if you don't support transitional attack, you're probably stupid and a boob. And I know you're listening going, whoa, did you just call one of your listeners a stupid boob? Yes, I did. If you don't know transitional attack.
Stupid or a boob.
Stupid and a boob. You're a stoob. Yeah, or a boot. Either way, if you hear that bullshit of hit it hard from the yard and I'm an inside firefighter, all that bullshit, it drives me insane. The example I like to, and I hear it to this day, whenever I teach a class and that subject comes up, I hear people all day, you'll never catch me spraying water outside, ever, ever, ever. Why is that? Because I'm supposed to go inside. Okay, let me ask you this. You go inside the front door, push in the hallway. The room on the right, fully involved. Okay. Door down the hallway, fully involved. Okay. So you're going to take your hand line. You're going to go right past that first room. Don't even spray any water. Just let that fire keep coming over top of you. And then you're going to try to make it to the second room. Well, no, you never pass fire. Exactly.
Yeah,
okay. Exactly. Traditional fire isn't a weak tactic. See what I did there?
Yeah.
It is the only thing. And not everything calls for it. But the idea of transitional attack is putting water on the fire as soon as possible, especially water mapping, especially doing it in such a way that you're making a lot of use of a little bit of tank water. And it's amazing what it can do. So yeah, I think you're a stoob, new word. If you don't, because the information's out there, it's free. You go to FSRI, I always describe it as a winning lottery ticket. If I gave you a lottery ticket with 6 numbers that I'm guaranteeing you win, millionaire, guaranteed, you would absolutely take it. That's what the FSRI is. And as an instructor, I've not been ever asked to plug the ISFSI. Never once, not one time. But joining the ISFSI, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors, is also a winning lottery ticket. You don't have to be an instructor. You could be a captain. You could be a sergeant. It's a fantastic organization, which works sort of hand in glove with FSRI, which is kind of nice. But there's no excuse for people to not know the science of what we do now, because it's not hidden on microfiche in some lab. It's all you got to do is literally go to the website, watch 15-minute videos, 40-minute videos. You can take the whole boot camp class, and it will make you a better firefighter. And if you're thinking that you should pass fire outside just because you want to get in there and get it where it's hot, then you don't give a shit about your community. You don't care about little Timmy in his Spider-Man pajamas on the floor. We got to drop those temperatures. It's not our ego. We talked about ego earlier last week, right before Christmas.
Wait.
But I've seen it. I've done it. I've been that guy. Oh, let me bring this up. I wish I had this video available. There's this video, and I hate to be a keyboard warrior on snippet videos, right? I really do, unless I know something. Right. I don't know everything about that. That's my disclaimer. But I will tell you what the video is, and you can form your own opinion. It looked like a condominium or like a townhouse. They're working to open the front door. Fire blowing out right above them at the second-story window. Firefighter standing there at the charge line. He looks up, kind of looks at the door. They're still working on the door. He sprays straight and steep and like a sprinkler, right? Steady, straight, steep. And you could literally watch it change. Watch the fire change. Yeah. You're thinking, great. Then you hear, "The fuck are you doing?" from the side. And then you see the firefighter kind of turn and stop. About that time, I think they got the door open. So I think it worked out. So hopefully that, "What the fuck are you doing?" comment wasn't towards that guy, because he did everything right. If people live there, came out of that alive, it's probably because of what he did. If he said it because you don't spray water from the outside, then he is a stoob. And I want to marry that person just so I can divorce him and make divorce jokes on him. That's how bad it is.
I like that you coined a new word today.
Stoob?
I'm glad I could be. That was all you. I want to give you all the credit, but I'm glad.
No, it was a synergistic. Oh, shit. I use synergy. Synergistic effect of high quality fire instructors. And I'm all hopped up on my cherry Pepsi, which I definitely have a drinking problem with these things.
No, actually, I threw in one of my wife's energy drinks she gets from Costco. I threw that in here. My energy is just starting to peak up. I might start bringing some words out. I think some of the best advice I've ever got in my career was stop talking so much. And someday I'm going to start taking that advice.
I disagree. I've seen you teach now. I've talked to you several times. We've met many times now. We're going to be working together. Keep on trucking. It's nice. And I mean this. I truly mean this. When the compliments I give are real, they're 100% real. And we don't do that enough in the fire service. And, you have no doubt how I feel about you, right? So as firefighters, there's that whole alpha male thing where, we don't really do compliments. And I've learned over the past, 8, 9 years, I've really worked hard at when I see right or good to learn from it for sure, but to tell that person. Yeah. And I just got a wonderful compliment not too long ago. I had a good friend of mine we both know call me, and he had rewatched a webinar on basement fire. And he just said, hey, man, I saw this and I thought this part was good. And you did that part. And I just want to say, hey, I saw it and it affected me in a positive way. I'm glad you're a part of it. So, and I encourage everybody to do that. I mean, this whole, you keep your shit to yourself. I think that's why mental illness in the fire service is as bad as it is, because we don't talk, we don't share. But if you got a brother or sister that's doing a good job, tell them. I mean, what's it going to hurt, right?
Yeah. Well, so, I've lost a buddy to suicide in the fire service, and I can tell you a lot of people. Well, I've lost a few, and I can tell you one of my buddies that I lost a couple of years back. 3 days before he died, I got a voicemail from him, and we were playing phone tag, whatever. So I had this voicemail, and then he passed away. And it wasn't until like a week later, I opened my phone, and I'm really bad about phones and tech. Well, I'm like, holy crap, I had this voicemail from him, and I kept it for a year. Because one of the last things he said was, hey, I love you, brother. And he started it with thank you, because it was something we were collaborating on. He had a lot going on, and he couldn't make it to this thing. And I'm like, hey, don't worry. I got you. I'll just cover it. I'll just do this whole thing. It's all good. No big deal. So he just called just to say, hey, thank you. Love you, man. Thanks for getting my back on that. And sorry, I've got a lot going on. No big deal. Well, I kept that voicemail, and I don't think we realize how thank yous, how far those go, and how far and I love you goes. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you got to mean it. And Jake, there's a couple of things that I know about Jake Barnes is that one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. And when you can drop humor and knowledge at the same time, that sticks here, bro. That sticks here. And that's why you have this beautiful talent. But when you tell
thank
people
you very much for that.
Yeah, man. But when you tell people thank you and I love you, that's like, even in the recruit academies, like that's enforcing that this is a family. I love you so much that I might be hard on you today because I want you to stay alive. I'm teaching you a tactic and you're not getting it, or you slouched here or whatever. I'm going to be hard on you because I know you're better than this. I know that you can surpass this potential that you think you have. I see more. Or, hey, I'm hard on you because I want you to stay alive. Or, hey, I love you. Sometimes people just need to hear that. Right. I'm doing some base training right now with the Mighty Oaks Foundation, and I'm hoping that I pass in February and move on to be a team leader. And through that process, it's taught me that grown men have very seldom been told I love you or been told we're proud of you. There's a high percentage of first responders that had some sort of childhood trauma or some trauma early on in their life. And it's amazing the stories that I've heard and the courage of a lot of those men. And I would say men and women, but I'm only a part of the men's legacy program, but to hear the courage of these men, and especially the team leaders that have been through the process and now trying to get back to with their stories of what they've gone through early in their life and how they've channeled that to now want to help others. To hear grown men cry and say, I love you and those types of things. I'd rather you do that early on than have to do that at a brother's funeral. Because I've done it on that other end too, of being at a brother's funeral that lost their life, took their life, whatever it is. I work if anybody here's listening, you hear Prescott, Arizona, like, trust me, I was around during 2013, lost a lot of friends with that. But even losing a buddy at Phoenix Fire from occupational cancer, I don't want the only time that you hug and tell a brother you love him or tell a sister you love him to be at a funeral. It doesn't hit as hard as when it hits, like when you say it ahead of time. And that's why I think it's powerful when you words are powerful, right?
I couldn't agree more. And there's not a time that when I say it, I don't mean it. I don't know that I've ever told a brother or sister that I love them and I haven't meant it. Like, it hasn't been a default setting for me. And I want them to know. I think part of it for me personally is I'm getting older. I do plan on living to be 180, so far so good.
But you're in peak physical condition.
I did a push-up not 2 months ago. You're right. Thank you for noticing. I don't say anything. Well, and my shoulder's still killing me, but it was just the down part. But I'm realizing the value of friendships. I'm late to the game in everything. My whole life is I'm late to the game. I'm late to the game in passion for the fire service. I've always had it, but I've been afraid to display it, I guess is a good way to put it. I listen to music that's 10, 20 years old, like for the first time, and I'm like, have you guys heard of Wham? Holy shit, they're good. Seriously, that's what I am. I feel like everything I do is late to the game. And one of them is appreciate the people that I've spent most of my adult life with. And I will say this, when it comes to the ISFSI, I'd already kind of crossed that threshold. So it's easy for me to say to my brothers and sisters, man, I love you. I cannot wait to see you again. I cannot wait to work with you again. And you've seen that. You've seen you talk about fitting right in. Holy cow. So it's hard to explain. The ISFSI is very open, and time to time, they hire a bunch of instructors to help with classes like they did. They pick great people. When I first was hired, I don't think I was, I don't know. I don't think that I would have said that guy is going to fit in perfect. I was probably too nervous. I knew what the ISFSI was. I knew who people that worked there, and I'm like, only through name. I'm like, I don't know if I'm that guy, right? I feel like I am now. I feel after 10 years that I'm that guy. But I have noticed when new people come in, you could tell right away that they're kind of on the fence, and there's some people that are just simply not interested. I haven't seen too many of those, but I have seen one or two. Then I see ones that are just like there. They're like, hey, by the way, we've known each other for like 500 years. You're one of them for sure. Eric Dryman's one of them for sure. Tony Ambrosia, Anthony Villo, all those guys. Eric Roden. I mean, and I'm there's a bunch more, but my point is
name dropping, man. They're all all-stars.
I'm name dropping big time. Well, Jake Barnes doesn't name drop. People name drop Jake Barnes.
No, I get it. That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Your name's all over the bathroom stalls.
Yeah. Yes, but never ever indicted. So
not yet.
Not yet.
If the glove don't fit, you must have quit.
Free the juice, brother.
Well, like earlier, I'm glad you didn't kill your wife, because you always need that partner in crime to help throw the body in the trunk. That's where you might have missed out on that that tag, that human tag you got earlier. All our hunts in Arizona, everything's a tag. But yeah, man, you got to have that. You got to have your wife to help, throw in the trunk, shut the door before they get out.
Absolutely. You got to have somebody there. You got to have somebody that has access to lime and a shovel and a tarp. You got to have that person.
The shovel is this. Who wants to put the work in digging a hole anymore?
What would you do?
I'd get it. I'd rent an excavator. I'm a titan of finance, though.
Here's what I would do. I would, let's say I had to kill somebody because they're bad. We'll assume they're bad. I kill them. It's
Only
illegal, though. I would dig down 10 feet and I would bury them. And then about 2 feet above, I would bury a bunch of dead dogs. And then about 2 feet above that, I would bury a bunch and I would keep burying dead animals. I wouldn't kill the animals. I would find the ones that I got standards. So they would never, and no one's going to dig down 10 feet to look for somebody, especially if they keep hitting dog bones.
It's too much work.
It's too much work. It is too much work.
First of all, I feel like you've thought about this before, and where some may be concerned, I'm actually just impressed. But I want to get back to some of those names you mentioned with because I got Avillo's book. I mean, shoot,
how cool is that, right?
Flat out right there, let it focus in. I got Avillo's book here.
Yep.
And when I can sit down with Avillo over a beer, I can't get it back in the deal, so that was embarrassing.
Work. I'll green screen that shit, and I'll make it a dragon come out and then suck the book back in.
And or if I do this, I actually have muscle. But to sit next to Avillo, man, and have a beer. Well, actually, we had a couple beers, and just talk some command conversations. That you can't. Where else are you going to get that? I can read his book. That's awesome. But to have the dialogue, have the conversation, and then, I rode with Ryan Trader, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and Kevin.
Oh yeah,
dude, I ride with Kevin. And we went from the airport, you know, to Merrillville, coincidentally, which I did not get reelected for mayor.
That's bullshit.
I know. Well, that's another podcast.
I've got a shit ton of dead animals, and I got a 12-foot hole, bro.
You had a plan. Just saying, hypothetically. But I rode with those guys, and I've met Kevin actually out here with maybe he was here for the 1700 when we taught it here at Carta. Right. And I mean, what a great guy, Forrest Reader, awesome people that you can sit and have dialogue with and ask the questions. But then I come back to my office and I'm looking at my library and I'm like, yeah, man, these guys all had a fingerprint on me before I met them, but they're just as cool and humble. And I'd met you, I'd met Gilbert, like all you guys I'd met here before, teaching either 1403, 1700 or something along the lines. And for you guys to be as cool as you were when I met you, so when I joined in with, the 1400 class and just how I was brought in and everybody was just equal status. I was loved up and treated with respect, asked for input. Like that just more people, I hope, understand how powerful ISFSI is as far as a community. Yes. But even just the information sharing, it's invaluable. You cannot share enough information.
It's like, so I always like to use this as an example because there's just not enough information out there about electric vehicles. But now that I know you, I could text you, email you, hey, listen, Chief, you got anything on EVs? You know, you could reach out to Mylan and Reader and all these people. I'll tell you a funny story. I get a lot of grief. I get two things. I get either understanding or grief for being such a fanboy. I got to be honest. I try not to, I don't think I brag on myself very much at all, but I will brag on this. I love the fact that I've been in the fire service for 30 years and I still fanboy. I go to FDIC and it's like, and I've had people tell me, you know, that's a little weird, man, or they're not heroes and stuff. But one of them was, it still is, Forrest Reader. Yeah. I took a class of his back in 2004, something like that. Right. Him and another guy from Benton Harbor were teaching this class. And then I started looking at some of the stuff that he had written. There's not a training. If you're an instructor and you read from a book to get a certification or a credential, yeah, Forrest has wrote that.
He's got the ISO knowledge.
He's incredibly smart, nicest guy in the world. So I go to FDIC for the ISFSI. They said we need some people to teach these classes outside the arena, and they're going to have gear for you with your name on it and everything, but you don't keep it. You just have it for the day. So I volunteered, and I got to work with Kevin Mylan, which was like the only second time I've seen Kevin. But my wife doesn't care about the fire service. She doesn't hate it by any chance, but it's not her thing.
It's not impressed.
Not impressed, but she knows how I feel about Forrest Reader, especially back then, right? So like I'd show her articles and stuff or send her stuff. So they had my gear right next to Forrest Reader's gear, and I took a picture and sent it to her. She knew exactly. Now, I didn't get to see Forrest that day or that whole week there. Still didn't meet him. Now, fast forward a few years, we do the basement fire class and kick it off in Colorado. Well, Forrest is there. I over fanboy. He would come up and talk to me, and I would just like that. I couldn't talk to the dude. And so on the last day, we're at this it's Pizzeria Uno's, where I sat on this bar, and he's sitting literally next to me, and he's talking about some ideas that he has for me to maybe, to help with the podcast or turn it to a class. You could all this stuff. And he's talking to me. I'm like shaking. I mean, I'm not even saying words to the dude. And I'm over here texting my wife. I'm like, Forrest is talking to me, and I'm not saying anything. Don't be an idiot. Say something to him, And I'm like, yes. It was so uncomfortable. And I loved, we talk about it and everything. And I can say to this day, Forrest was one of the most valuable human beings in my life. And I'm very comfortable with him now, but I still fanboy. I mean, I'll see him teach sometimes. I'll see Jesse Marcotte teach.
Jesse's the best looking guy in the biz. How do you not get starstruck when you see him?
Yeah, exactly.
Into the room in his Class A and his hair whipped back, and
perfect. it's cool to sit in their classes and go, wait a minute, I'm drinking beer with that guy later on, or I've had beer with him over, we've taught at the Rock before, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It is such a cool place to work because not only does your skills get better, they have no choice but to get better being around the great instructors you are.
Yeah.
And the like I said, I always tease me and Scott Wallace, the Duck. I always tell him, I'm like, dude, you and I have drank beer all over this country. There's so many. He goes, of course, his been that shitty Busch Light he'll drink, but technically that's beer in Ohio.
Stuff, yeah.
It's so cool to have those moments, those memories. I know we kind of went off, but we started talking about, caring about each other. And I've never experienced it more than when I joined the ISFSI ever, right? And so I was thinking the other day, I was like, I got to have Eric on here. And I'm like, well, shit, I just had Tony on. He's an ISFSI instructor. Then I started thinking, well, I had Gilbert, he's an ISFSI. Scott, I've had nothing but, it's like an unofficial, and it's not as I do with ISFSI, but the people that I get excited about, the people that make my life better, the people that make me better as an instructor are you all, the ISFSI instructors. It just happens to be that we all work for the same group.
Yeah. but these are qualified people, except for me. But no, I did the same. When I got accepted, I was like, I called my wife. I'm like, I'm on cloud 9. Like, and then, I'm like looking at the emails and I'm going, oh, they messed up. That's what happened. I'll just send an email to Lee and just say, hey, no big deal. Think you accidentally got me on there. No big deal. I'll try again though. And then to show up and be around everybody and be welcomed in. And then, like Eric Dryman, got to know him. I wish I could have talked to him a little bit more. There's a couple of guys I wish I could have talked to a little bit more. Mm-hmm. D'Agostino, I know we're heading to Houston together. I'm excited to pick his brain a little more. But so Eric, I got to talk to him one night at dinner when we were watching that Nebraska game that we won't talk about how it ended. Mm-hmm. But I'm taking his VES class at FDIC, the hot class. It's VES. It's in live fire, and I can tell you, like, there's a few things I'm really excited for in 2025. That's probably top 3. And
really?
I'm for FDIC because I know I'm hoping I get to see you there and have a couple have a couple 80 beers. But the point is to go and bunk up and go take that class. I'm ready to grind. Like, I'm ready to go to work on that, and I'm really excited to take his knowledge from another arena. But I'm super pumped for FDIC to just try to catch up with all of you as best I can.
It's a lot of fun. We all ended up at the Yard House. I don't know if it's some unofficial rule, but it seems like that's where we always end up going. And last year was the first year my wife had ever went. Like I said, she doesn't hate the fire service. Well, I'll just be honest with you. I retired from a department that is
graduated from the fire service.
Graduated from the fire service. A department that is stuck in the late 80s, ran by 3 people that do not care about the community, do not care about the fire service. I mean, this is quantifiable. I mean, there's ways to, like, I could prove this shit, right? And it got a lot. So she got tired of hearing me complain about it. So she kind of like, well, whatever. Then I joined the ISFSI. Then I meet all these great people. And now she's curious. She's like, well, wait a minute. So all your friends from ISFSI that you constantly talk about and text and call are all going to be right up there? I'm like, yeah, I'd love for you to come up to meet them. And so she did.
Yeah.
And she came up and she got to meet everybody. And she was like, I get it now. I get why that's all you talk about is the fire service and these new classes that you teach and these people you teach with. She goes, I get it. These are quality human beings. And I'm like, I'm sure she's going to come up this year as well. Okay. But to have her meet Mike McCarthy or Forrest Reed or Kevin Milan, and, it's awesome.
McCarthy.
That's almost a Mike hat. Almost. You know what you're missing?
What's that?
Well, it's got to be on backwards and it's got to be bent.
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm that Midwestern in me won't allow me. You're one of those two things. But I gotta, because I love the guy, I gotta rock my Red Sox hat for it.
I don't know that, and I say this again, it's going to come off like an insult because I like the vernacular, I like the education, But I feel like if you tried hard enough, you could be as good as Eric Merill. I feel like if you tried hard enough, you could be as good as Forrest Reeder. I believe if you tried hard enough, you could be as good as Jesse Marcotte, on and on and on, right? Yeah. I don't think anybody can reach Mike McCarthy's level. I feel like there's something so ingrained in him as a firefighter that, and couldn't be a bigger optimist, but you got to meet Mike. You got to take one of his classes. I just don't know that, I know you're a huge Justin Bieber fan, right? Nobody could be as good as Justin Bieber in your eyes, right?
Poster's over here.
Oh, I know. And I've seen all the lipstick marks around it that are just about your level. So it's kind of weird. I'm not going to get too far into that.
But yeah, it's same.
Yeah. But I truly mean that. He is so good. There's just something in his DNA that I think you could get close, but I don't think you could make another Mike. I don't know anybody else like that. And if you ever get a chance, he works for us at ISFSI. He teaches. He has a great webinar on TIC. Check it out. But he also works for Performing to Train Under Pressure a lot. He'll go around with that company, which is Rob Lissetti and Greg Pear. Fantastic company. So run, don't walk to that guy, and you'll understand what we're talking about. I just don't know that you could reach it. I just don't think you could.
When I think of McLovin,
McLovin,
there's a reason for that. I think of KSA, knowledge, skills, and ability.
Yeah,
and I picture McCarthy, and hands down, I believe this more than anything. I want people to be better than me. Mm-hmm. I want the next training chief to make me look stupid. That's what I hope. I want whatever position I'm leaving the next person in to do it so much better than I did. That's how you leave your legacies. I guess maybe to tie all this back into identity, I think the best way to identify yourself is leave it in an SOG, leave it in some sort of positive change that somebody came in and did it, is now doing it better than you. Just create a next step and then let somebody else come in and do it better. And then the next person come in better. But you got to have a humble and servant heart to be able to do that. And I think that's why I think of a guy like McCarthy and that KSA is because dude is as humble as it gets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you know him at all or watch him teach, you're like, man, this guy's dropping all this knowledge. It's overwhelming, but he's probably the most humble presenter. And then guy to hang out with, at the same time. That's a unique talent. That's organic. And I think that's a testament to the people picked for ISFSI is across the board. And I know I'm leaving a lot of names out. Erin is as sharp as a tack. She's
Erin Magruder.
Yeah, dude, she's on another level, man. But, and Jesse has other talents than being, incredibly good looking. He's kind of the Zoolander of the group, Well,
I'd like to kind of think
I never saw him turn.
I mean, I feel like, and this is an I feel statement, okay? I feel like I'm way better looking than Jesse. And so I'm not mad. I'm not saying I'm mad at you. Mad's the wrong word.
I want to
fucking pissed.
Yeah, that's fair. And you should be. But I didn't make your face. I would just say there's a difference between facts and feelings. You're entitled to feelings all you want. But there's that data, right? There's that empirical peer review data. And brother, your face has been peer reviewed, okay?
Shit.
Right, brother, take the victory, man. You got a wise out of this. So,
I am not cutting that out.
Every dog's got his day, brother.
I had to make your face.
No, hey, you're a dog. You're DOWG, man. You're my boy, and I absolutely love you, dude. You are as funny and knowledgeable as it gets, dude. And I swear I can't wait to drink a beer with you at FDIC. April can't get here fast enough. I hope more than anything I get to teach with you though, because to be a sponge and just taking your knowledge, man, it's so fun. It's invaluable, man.
Thank you so much for the compliments. I take them all, and I'm hoping my buddy Adam Neff is listening because he told me I was always like, no. So you're supposed to accept the compliment and then say thank you. So I accept it, and I thank you very much for it. I really truly do. I always like to add the disclaimer that I feel like, and you probably feel the same way, is like we are just the cumulative effect of all the great firefighters that have ever said a word to us or taught us something or gave us an article to read. And then what is special about us as a group, I do think it's not easy to stand in front of, 40 people, 50 people, and be able to comfortably disseminate information. But I appreciate it. I'm every day I try to learn a little something. Every day I try to affect this podcast is meant to hopefully get people to go look at the FSRI or ISFSI or learn about football. I don't think people know about I don't even think about football. I think it's a fairly new sport.
Everything you need to know about football.
Wait, I got one for you. 34 was Walter Payton in the 80s when Chicago Bears won Super Bowl. Yeah. Mike Singletary, 83. I don't remember McMahon's number, but
he's number 9.
Number 9. Okay.
There's a number. Or...
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. See, for a short while, for a very short, I hate sports. I do. I'm not a sports guy. You put anything around in my hands, I guarantee you I'll drop it. Unless the name of the game is drop the ball, then it'll never leave my hands. I'm not coordinated. I'm not fast. None of those things. Now, I've played all the sports, but can't do it. But there was 1 year I couldn't get enough of watching the NFL.
Yeah.
And for that 1 year, that's all I did. So I know just enough to add that in to conversations. So that's about it.
If you know Walter Payton and Barry Sanders, just leave it. Walk out.
Sweetness.
That's the job.
Bo Jackson, I can translate into 2 sports. I could try Michael Jordan with that. It's just minor league baseball. I don't think I could. All right, brother. I want to wrap up with, always wrap up the same way. I want to know what was the best firehouse prank that you've played or if I played on you.
Yeah. So I've got, remind me this next time I see you, because there's a series of these. I had this going on with my brother Tom. We had this, it was going back and forth for a bit, but I think my favorite one I did to him, the funnier ones are for later over beers that he did to me.
Okay.
But what I did to him is we had a patient, and never very serious, a lot of medical calls there, but they're like low level. He was always like, "No, I'm fine. He was from New York. And let's say hypothetically he had a real New York name like Polly.
Okay.
So we would always go on up. So he was in a wheelchair, he didn't have legs. And Polly lived by himself, had this little trailer, little ramp he would take his wheelchair up to get in and out. And we'd go there a lot more so just for like him getting access, right? So we go to his house, and now it's an EMS call. So Polly never wore pants, but no legs, no nothing, was in this wheelchair. He would just kick it all day in his chair. When he was having like difficulty breathing or something going on, right? So we go in and I'm giving him an assessment, and I finally, I always walk in, I'm like, "Hey, yo, Paulie," and he's like, "Hey, like, what about it?" And he was a Yankees fan, and of course I'm all about my Red Sox.
There you go, more Mike.
What's that?
I said, there you go, more Mike.
More Mike. So we always had this really fun banter. Well, my boy Tommy didn't really know. He hadn't really been on Polly yet, so he didn't know the dynamics there. So I finally get Polly talked into going to the hospital. And I've got Tommy like, "Yeah, give me blood pressure, give me blood sugar, whatever." And I'm, just doing a few things. I'm like, "Well, let's wrap up. Let's get him in the box. Ambulance is backing in. And so let's get moving." I said, "Hey, Tommy, we get his shoes on for him." They're helping get his shoes on. He's like, "Yeah, sure." So Tommy bends down and he's like, "Where's his shoes?" And he's like, "Well, where's his legs?" And remember, he's naked. So he looks up and he's eye level, right, with Polly's gun. So Tommy looks up and goes, "Oh," looks right at me, and I go, "Hey." And then he looked at Polly, and Polly goes, "Hey." So Tommy got his face full of all Polly's business. And we all had this really good laugh, except for my captain. And he was just like, "Oh, crap, this is it. This is how I'm getting demoted." He's like, "These idiots are getting fired," whatever. So I had a hilarious laugh. Tom went and washed his eyes. Polly thought it was hilarious. My captain, we got back to the station, and he's like, "I want to be mad." He's like, "But I can't," because he's like, "I know he's not snitching." He's like, "He's from New York. Paulie, he's not snitching." He's like, "But that was hilarious." He's like, "But you guys can't do that." And it's like, well, you're right. We shouldn't do that. But we did do it, and it worked out, and it was hilarious. And here I am now telling it on this podcast. But the moral of the story, though, is, again, like, you got to be serious in the tones, right? Like, take the training to the tones, right? But dang it, man, if you have an opportunity to make because we still talk about that. And
Right.
that was like 18 years ago, 17 years ago, something like that. We still talk about it. Know your audience, know when you can do that. But golly, man, if you have a chance to not take yourself too seriously and have a moment like that, do it. That's priceless.
Yeah, there's a million times I've made little jokes on runs and stuff to simply kind of de-stress or ease up a little bit.
Yeah.
Never look at a man's junk. I mean, that's a good one.
Well, I didn't. My buddy Tom was the weirdo that looked at his junk. I didn't look at it.
You had nothing to do with that. That was all.
I was on the side, man. I was trying to get the ambulance back in. I was, I was trying to help.
Brother, I cannot tell you how much I've appreciated having you on here. I love you to death. I cannot wait to work with you again. I cannot wait to bug you on the phone. You're one of those people that I always said, whenever I end up in an old folks' home and my memory is going, there's certain things I'll never forget. The first time I saw my beautiful bride, right? I can't even imagine a disease that would ever take that away from me. And there's a bunch of firefighters that have made an impact on, and you're definitely one of them, brother. It means a lot that you've been on here. Thank you so much. So disagree. I think I'm better looking than Jesse. We'll just have to, I'll tell him, but yeah, again, you didn't make my face.
I really didn't. Yeah, I don't want to take.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. My mom got around a lot, and she was in Prescott Valley. It's not important. It's not important.
No,
brother, good talking to you.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much. I'm humbled and honored that you asked, but like you said, man, this is a hangout. I have my foot up half the time. We're just two buddies
That's
hanging
disrespectful.
out.
That's fucking disrespectful.
Edit that out. I didn't do that.
Okay, I'll do that.
I have pants on, so I can
Well,
prove
that's for you and I differ.
on. I'm happy to be around.
No, I just I'm sitting. I'm naked. That's where the shirt. Yeah.
Perfect.
It looks like I'm delivering a baby elephant drunk first. All right. I'll talk to you later, my man.
Can't wait, man. I love you, man. Thank you.
Love you. Bye. Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures and mobile units for 35 years. Make training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information. Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures and mobile units for 35 years. Make training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.